Hello everyone, it's Bernard here, and today I'm gonna show you how to go from this to this without any special skills or equipment. So let's do this. We need to prime our ruin, and as you can see, it already has this duotone shift, like the darker lower areas and brighter top. That's because I sprayed it with two paints actually. First I sprayed the bottom half with Mechanicus Standard Grey from GW, then I used Army Painter's Ashen Grey, I believe. You can also use Grey Seer, I think it would work also well. That's to, just give this the first kind of depth, to have some basic shadows. When you're spraying with the darker grey, you obviously paint the lower half, and you try to, paint from bottom to the top. And when you're painting with the brighter one, you do the exact opposite, so you have like this natural light source. If you miss some crevices, you will already have some nice shading right there. Having done that, now we need to add some aging to the ruin, because as you can see on the bigger ruin especially, like there's a lot of darkness in the corners, and we don't want it to look like a typical wash when you see the drops where they went. To achieve this, we need to first do the shading and then apply dry brush, which we will do quite extensively here. But that also makes this whole painting experience quite simple. So for the shading, we're gonna use Seraphim Sepia, quite popular wash from GW, and optional Agrax Earthshade, because I like at this step to really focus on the fact that the bottom should be darker than the top. So I usually wash with Agrax on the bottom, then Seraphim Sepia on the top. I will start with Seraphim Sepia though, because, well, it's gonna be majority of this building, and really it can be the only wash you're using here. You just basically focus on all the details, all the recesses, or all the needs. You don't need to be cautious at all. You just apply very liberally the wash to add the color. Most of it will be covered by dry brush with some brighter grays, so you don't need to worry about it. You also don't need to cover the whole thing like 100%. I usually, for example, in those windows, I do it that way. You can also leave the doors and the windows because, well, we will apply color to them, and for that we will dry brush them later with some brighter color. Same with the flooring. We want to have some very colorful, maybe not bright, but colorful saturated objects on the wall to, break this sad grayish tones. I don't go all the way to the bottom because I will be applying Agrax Earthshade, kinda as the dirt from the street builds up from below. But if you don't want to use another wash, you can just go with this one, really. All the bright details will be done, dry brushing, and all the dark details, like the skull elements or maybe the pipes, they will be done with dark enough paint that it will cover the wash. So yeah, as you can see, I have quite a lot of washing to do, so see you guys in a moment. Okay, the washes have dried, and that's how it looks right now. It kind of looks like an early stage of making sketches for a John Blanche artwork. That's the goal. We want this to look very dirty at this point, have all these different grimy colors, because now we will be dry brushing, well, the main colors. And we will start with something dark on the bottom to keep this, this gradient. Like when you look at this ruin, you see it goes from the darker gray bottom, like all the top dust has fallen down to the street level. That's the goal we are striving for. So we will start with a little bit of Ashen Grey. It's important to have a decent dry brush. I'm using a set of brushes from Artify. I believe they are like a rip-off of the Artist Opus dry brushes, which honestly is a good thing, Artist Opus are a fantastic brushes, but they are expensive as hell. Those, they cost like $20 on Amazon for the whole set. with some accessories, so I will link them in the description below if you're interested. But so far they work great for me. They are like goat hair and very nice texture and feel. Like they're very gentle yet firm. Like they're not as soft as the makeup brushes. So I think they should last quite long, and they do this nice coverage whenever used. Yeah, so now I'll add the first color and see you guys in a moment. Okay, so I've dry brushed with Ashen Grey. With the first layers, with the first darker colors, you really want to, you know, push it hard, so it has a much better coverage. But I don't know if this camera can pick it up, but you should see some brownish tint in it. Yeah, obviously I moved around the doors because I want them to be bright, so then I will be able to add color more easily. But yeah, all the rest, you already can see, you know, the build-up of all the ashes and gravel. Now we'll move to another, a little brighter color, and it is Dawnstone. Honestly, if you really want to, you can skip the Ashen Grey and start with the Dawnstone, because we want the building to be quite bright, you know, for once to contrast a little with the street. Yeah, I thought, like, I have the Ashen Grey, I want higher contrast, it won't move so smoothly, but yeah, you can easily start with Dawnstone and then move all the way to a very slight white dry brush to make the ruins pop on the board and make all the dirt and all the colors of windows and doors more, you know, vivid and more visible. Speaking of Dawnstone, this is what I will be using now, still with my almost largest dry brush. By the way, when dry brushing, remember that it doesn't really need to be that dry. You are using the paper or dry brush palette to evenly distribute the paint in the bristles. So yeah, it can be a little moist, it just shouldn't be running off the brush. Yeah, so with this color you can actually go all the way to up and then build highlights above it. So yeah, we are trying to cover the previous washes to make them, you know, a little more discreet, only appear in the deep recesses. And again, don't worry if it looks too dark or it's not covering well enough, we will still use some lighter dry brushes. This is just to make all the layers, all the levels uniform. So yeah, so I will just keep on painting everything, including, you know, the top area of the dark one with a little lighter dry brush than previously, and see you guys in a moment. Okay, we can't see much yet, except that it looks dirty and really incoherent, but it's getting there, it's getting there. The transition from darker to lighter grays is a little more subtle. The browns, they don't, you know, whole stains, but rather a huge amount of dirt. Yeah, I think it's slowly getting there. Don't worry, we'll just apply some other dry brushes. And remember, dry brushing is so fun and easy. You just, you know, take a brush and go over it. Just need to remember how to dry brush properly. So again, you don't need the dry brush to be completely dry, because then the paint, you know, it scraps from it instead of leaving subtle marks. So yeah, you want the paint to be basically as from the pot. That's the ideal consistency, and you want to be evenly distributed on the bristles, so you you know, cover everything evenly. So we finished with the Dawnstone, now we'll go to the Administratum Grey. Yeah, we actually have this, then another grey and possibly white, depending where you started, how dark you want your ruin. So I give it a shake, and on the ruin we'll probably start somewhere from here. Maybe we'll go all the way down, but we want from here to be actually, you know, quite nicely covered, and here only smoothly transitioning all the way down. So that's the plan. Let's see how it works. I'm always starting with the brighter paints, especially from the top, you know, just kind of scratching the edges to get rid of like too much paint. And yeah, now I'm trying to get some better coverage while I still have not the brightest colors, like while I still can highlight on top of it. So in this case, on top of Administratum Grey, I can still pull out Grey Seer, for example. So I'm quite liberal. I just want to have my nice coverage and little blending with the lower portions, you know. This is with the, let's say, main base color, which is Administratum Grey. It kinda binds everything together. We still see from darker to lighter with some dirt in between. But from now we are ready to go into highlights. And while doing highlights, which we'll do with Grey Seer, remember to cover everything you want to have in decent color. So in this case I will be painting over the doors and over the top floor, because I will be using contrast paints to paint them. I will obviously dry brush them too, to give them a little highlight, but yeah, I will start with the Grey Seer and maybe a final touch, a little of white. So yeah, so I will show you with both highlights and I will tell you which paints exactly I used, but basically Grey Seer can be your final highlight, and this time, you know, just be very gentle, applying it on the top, all the sharp parts, all the detail, even at the bottom, to make the nits pop, the screws pop. Just be very, very gentle, only really like very fine highlights, not a whole color like with the previous paints. Here is with the final dry brush, and I did a little white dry brushing on the door, on the window, and a little on top, mostly where there is some detail I want to show a little better. Now I'm basically ready to use contrast paints, so we are almost nearing to the end. After the contrast I will probably do the metal areas, like the skull, the sewer pipe entrance, and that will be all. We don't want to, you know, spend too long on the ruin, because with the terrain you basically have usually a lot of things to paint at once. My best advice is not to overdo it. You can always get back to it, do some, for example, OSL on the lights, although thankfully here the lights are broken. I don't know if you'll see it clearly, yeah, but the bulb is not working, so you can just leave it. Okay, so the doors and windows I'm painting with Flash Terror's Red, because I want this color to be, you know, vibrant or saturated, but not necessarily very bright. So Flash Terror's Red works perfectly, in my opinion. It provides perfect high contrast to the rest of the building and to the turquoise floor. So this is my go-to. In this ruin, this particular one, you need to check, because sometimes there's like a small tiny part of a broken window or something that's also supposed to be red. So I will apply the contrast, and then I will apply the Terradon Turquoise. Where it is? Terradon Turquoise. Terradon Turquoise. I will apply this paint onto the ceiling, then I will show you how they look before the final highlights. Will you look at that? These are the door, windows, the window part, and the top floor. It's still a little wet. I'm honestly considering not highlighting, not dry brushing the upper floor, considering how nice the color turned out with the dry brush before. Just like a little slap chop. The biggest issue I had were with those crates. I needed to put a brush in every single one of those holes to paint it. And in hindsight, I would probably next time spray paint it all black and then dry brush it white, so I would have some dark color in the recesses. But yeah, it still turned out well. We'll obviously need to do some details like the metal parts, mechanicum skull, and dry brushing the doors. Doors I want to dry brush, and I will do in a second. The color I'm using is because I want this to be this, you know, old door, old paint, old color. I'm using pink horror. I don't want this color to be too vivid, too lively. So if I were to use like Wazdaka red or Evil Sun scarlet, something like that, it would be too bright in my opinion. While going with pink, even though it is ironically even brighter, it gives this effect of, you know, kind of like dead, lifeless red in terms of red. Like, because as a pink, it's a sweet color, but for a red as a highlight, it gives this, you know, like sucked out. I'm probably rambling too much at this point, but yeah. So these are the highlights. So I'll just do it off screen, and also I will cover all the metal parts. So the pipe entrance, the skull, the circle around the skull, I would probably leave most of the pipes as gray, because I think that we have enough colors and different you know, shades that we don't need it to look good, and I'm a little afraid that with a wrong color we can make it too busy and too hard to, you know, appreciate. I will probably do the carved, the ribbed pipes with some black, either Black Legion or Black Templar. So yeah, so for now I'm highlighting the doors and applying Runelord Brass. Now, important note regarding Runelord Brass, as you can see it has a white top. That's because this is Runelord Brass base. There is also Runelord Brass layer, and I felt in the strap once there are some third-party resellers, some friendly local game stores that still have the old Runelord Brass before the release of 9th edition Necrons, which is a layer and is unusable. Unusable. If it's, for example, if you see a Runelord Brass promo, it's like sale for half price, there is a huge chance that it will be the layer, which is completely unusable. Meanwhile, this one, it has a great coverage, interesting color. You can highlight it with gold or you can highlight it with silver. So it's a very universal paint. I love it. I love to have it in my disposal. Okay, so highlighting the doors, making the pipe entrances, and thinking about the upper level, whether to highlight it or not. Okay, assuming I don't want to do highlights on the top floor, and I honestly think it looks interesting enough, the ruin is done. But as you can hopefully see, it has the same design language as my previous ruins. It's quite coherent, it's interesting, but simultaneously not over the top in a way that it will, you know, take the attention from your models. So whenever you're playing a game, I think this is a perfect background, you know, setting, area thingy. Also, I like the fact that the doors and windows being in very bright, distinctive color add to the fact that now you know when there is some terrain that has interaction with it. For example, through the door, you can charge, fight from the windows, you can shoot, etc. I think it's a nice touch. It helps me remember that, you know, that I have always option to charge through the door. As for the top deck, here's my previous ruin, which has much brighter. Highlight on this one was done with the Helion green. I believe now there is Gauss green or something like that. So yeah, maybe I will add it to that one. But yeah, this contrasting top just makes the models stand out on it. So yeah, what can I say? I'm sucker for this color. I really love it. The Terradon Turquoise. Turquoise? Help me, guys. How do you pronounce this color? Like, how? But yeah, I love this color. I think it fits perfectly with all those ruins. I have only one ruin left to paint, and I will have the whole Volpus done, which means that the bat rep is coming. If I will be happy with the results of my Aquilons, which, by the way, here I have one that you will probably not be able to see properly. Yeah, I went with the classic color scheme of the Tempestus Science. I just think that it really fits the Aquilons. If I will be happy with the results with my painting scheme, maybe I'll throw another tutorial, and Peter will hopefully throw a tutorial how he paints his Bespid Stingwings in the classic colors, but with contrast paints. So yeah, great time to be a Kill Team fan, in my opinion. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy this. Maybe you will use some of those colors, techniques, or anything, and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.